Hi to all of you. Today we are going to solve some more problems on the centroid of composite sections like L section and some uneven sections. Now, in the last classes we have been discussing about the problems on finding out of the centroid, that is the coordinates of the x and y distances for the centroid of some of the complex figures like this, this figure and C section and I section. Today we will discuss about the CG of the L section. So now take down this problem. Determine the centroid of an angle section shown in the figure. Now take down this problem, this figure. Here the L section, also called as the angle section, and generally it is composed of the two rectangles. Now we'll see how to solve this problem. Now take down this figure. Here the first vertical height of the length is equal to 92 and thickness is 12 mm, and horizontal length is equal to 80 mm and thickness is 12 mm. Now this is the figure, so we have to find out the solution for this. Now this is the figure given. Here to find out the solution, first of all we have to divide the given L section into the two rectangles. For this, what is the first step that we should do is we have to extend the horizontal rectangle to the leftmost edge. Now, with this, we got the two rectangles. One is the horizontal rectangle having a length of how much? The length is equal to 80 and thickness is equal to 12 mm, and the rectangle 2 is the vertical rectangle having a length of the 90 out of 92. So we have taken 12 for the bottom. So the remaining is 80 into 12. The second rectangle also 80 into 12. So the height is 80 and thickness is 12. Now we got the two rectangles. Then here this given L section is neither symmetrical to x-axis nor symmetrical to y-axis. So the it has got the two coordinate distances, that is the x distance and also y distance. So we need to find out the coordinates of the x and y. Therefore, we have to, first of all, we have to define the reference axis, that is x-axis and y-y. Generally, the x-axis can be taken from the bottommost edge. So the bottommost edge is the x-axis and the leftmost edge is the y-y axis. So now the point of intersection of the x-axis and y-y is the point O. Now we are supposed to find out the centroid of this given angle section. Now we know the table. If we call back the table, we got some columns, that is area, x distance, the term a and x, that is a into xi, and the y distance, and the term a and yi. Now for the rectangle 1, the area is, what is the area for the rectangle 1? That is the bottom rectangle. The length is 80 and thickness is 12. So 80 into 12, so 960 square millimeter is the area. Now the coming to the x1. So for the rectangle 1, the distance of x1 is equal to half of the thickness. That is, the total thickness is how much it is? 12 millimeters. That is right. So the for the rectangle 1, the total width is equal to 80 millimeters. So the x1 will act at a distance of 80 by 2, that is equal to 40. So x1 is equal to 80 by 2, that is 40, and the term a1 and x1 is becoming 38400, and the y coordinate of the rectangle 1, that is y1. So y1 means it is having a thickness of 12 millimeters from the bottom edge. So the y1 will be acting at a distance of half of the thickness, that is 12 by 2. So y1 is equal to 6, and the term a1 into y1 is becoming 5760. Now coming to the rectangle, that is a vertical rectangle, that is rectangle 2. The area is equal to same, that is 80 is the height and 12 is the width. So 80 into 12, it is becoming 960 square millimeters, and the x2, if you see the x2, so for this rectangle 2, the centroid will be acting at a distance of 12 by 2, so that is 6 millimeters, and the term a1, sorry, a2 into x2 is equal to 5760, and coming to the term y2. So for the rectangle 2, the y2 means it is acting at a distance of 80 by 2 from the thickness. So but from the bottom, that is from the x-axis, it is having a distance of 12 mm. So 12 plus 80 by 2. So 12 plus 80 by 2 means 12 plus 40, that is 52 millimeters for the y2. Now the term a2 and y2 is becoming 49920. Now we have to find out the sigma a, that is 1920, and the sigma ai into xi, that is 44161, and sigma ai into yi, that is equal to 55680. Now we have to find out the coordinates of the centroid, that is x bar is equal to sigma ax by sigma a, that is equal to 44160 by 1920, it is equal to 23 millimeters, and the distance of the centroid from the x6, that is the y bar, is equal to sigma ay by sigma a, that is equal to 55680 by 1920, it is equal to 29 millimeters. So the x coordinate is 23 millimeters and y coordinate is 29 millimeters. So here, so x is 23. 23 means, so here this is x and y is equal to 29. So this is centroid. So here even the, here what is happening is the centroid of the given figure is acting out of the area. So it is not within the area of the L section. So this point is acting out of the area of the L section. It is not located on the given body. So it is acting at some other point at a distance of 29 millimeters from the bottom edge and 23 millimeters from the left edge. So this is the answer, that is the centroid of the given angle section. Now next we'll go to the other problem. Here this is the problem on a eccentric section. That means this section is having a special shape, and here it is neither symmetrical to x-axis nor symmetrical to y-axis. So therefore we need to find out the both the coordinates, that is the x bar and y bar for the given figure. Now take down this problem. Determine the centroid of the given lamina. Here the figure is given, you have to draw the figure. Here lamina means area. The areas are called laminas. Here coming to the figure, at the left edge it is having a semi-circular shape, and to the right top corner it has got a equilateral triangle, and the remaining part is rectangle. So if we divide the given figure, so we got the three standard figures. They are rectangle, semicircle and triangle. So first we take down this figure, then we have to divide the given figure into the standard areas, and then we have to number it. Then accordingly we have to find out the individual coordinates of the figures, of the standard figures. Then we have to find out the areas. Then by substituting the formula, because it is composed of the three figures, then x bar is equal to a1 into x1 plus a2 into x2 plus a3 into x3 by a1 plus a2 plus a3. Similarly, y bar is equal to a1 into y1 plus a2 into y2 plus a3 into y3 by a1 plus a2 plus a3. Like this we have to find out the coordinates of the centroid of the given composite figure. Now you have to redraw the figure, and then you have to divide. Now the same figure is divided into the three standard areas. As first one is the rectangle coming from the bottom side, then the second one is the semicircle at the left edge, and third one is the triangle at the top. Now, to find out the centroid of this figure, we need to define the reference axis. So for this here, the bottom edge will be taken as the OX axis, and the left edge, that is the, the point on the semicircle at the left, is taken as the OY axis. The OX and OY are meeting at the point O. Now, accordingly, we find out the coordinates of the centroid of each individual area. Then we have to substitute that values in the area, values in the formula to get the centroid of the total figure. Now, we know the here this is because it is not symmetrical about either x-axis or y-axis. So we need to find out the both coordinates. Now, recalling the table, the number one is the rectangle. So having a width of 100 mm and height of 50 millimeters. The area becoming 100 into 50, it is 5000. And the x1 coordinate. So seeing the figure here, the x1 means what? So this is the y-axis from this. So x1 means it is having a how much distance it is 100 mm. This is 50. This is 50. It is 100 mm. So 100 means the CG of this figure is lying at a distance of 100 by 2 from here, from this point. But it is again at a distance of 25 millimeters from the y-axis. So x1 is equal to 25 plus 100 by 2. So 25 plus 50, it is equal to 75. So 25 plus 100 by 2, 25 plus 50 is 75. And the term a1 into x1 is becoming 375000. And now the y1, coming to the y1. So for this, it is acting at a distance of 50 by 2 from the bottom edge. So directly we can take 50 by 2, that is equal to 25. That is y1. Now a1 into y1 is becoming 125000. Now coming to the second one, that is a semicircle having a diameter of 25 millimeters, having a radius, not diameter, having a radius of 25 millimeters. So the area of the semicircle is equal to 5 into r square by 2. 5 into 25 square by 2, it is becoming 982 square millimeters. And the distance of x1, x2, x2 means so from here to here. So we know that the distance is equal to, actually it is from here to here, it is 4r by 3 pi. But we want the distance from this y-axis. So the distance between these ways, that is the radius, that is equal to 25. So 25 minus 4 into r by 3 pi, that is 25 minus 4 into 25 by 3 pi. So we will be getting the answer as 14.4 millimeters, that is x2. Now we got this is the a2 into x2 term. And coming to the y2. Y2 means from for this the distance is, because it is symmetrical, this again this only semicircle is symmetrical about the x-axis, so it is lying on this, so it is distance of how much, 50 by 25, so the x2 is equal to 25, so y2 is equal to 25. Now a2 into y2 is equal to 24550. Now coming to the third figure, that is triangle. The area is equal to half into base into height. Half into base is 50 and height is 50. Half into 50 into 50. It is equal to 1250 square millimeters. Now the term x3. X3 means from this point what is this one. So generally, so it is symmetrical about this again y-axis here. So here, so at the midpoint it is lying. So what is this figure? It is lying at this at the midpoint of the year. So what is the distance? 25 plus 25 plus 25. So total is 100. The x3 is equal to 100, and the term a3 into x3 is equal to 125,000. Now coming to the y3. So for the triangle y3, generally it is acting at a distance of h by 3 from this base. So h by 3 means 50 by 3 from the base, but the base is at a distance of 50 millimeters from the given reference axis. So 50 plus 50 by 3. So 50 plus 50 by 3, it is becoming 50 plus 16.67. It is become 66.67. It is not approximately equal to 66.7. Now the term A3 into Y3 is becoming 83375. Now we have to find out the sigma A. Sigma A is equal to, adding all the areas, it is equal to 7232, and the sigma ai into xi, nothing but the a1 into x1 plus a2 into x2 plus a3 into x3, that is equal to 5141408, and the algebraic sum of the term ai into yi, that is nothing but the a1 into y1 plus a2 into y2 plus a3 into y3, that is equal to 232925. Now after finding out all these terms, then we have to go to the next step is to find out the centroid by applying the formula. Here x bar is equal to a1 into x1 plus a2 into x2 plus a3 into x3 by a1 plus a2 plus a3. There is nothing but sigma axi by sigma ai, that is equal to 514,140.8 by 7232, that is equal to 71.1 millimeters, and the y bar is equal to a1 into y1 plus a2 into y2 plus a3 into y3 by a1 plus a2 plus a3, that is nothing but the sigma ai into yi by sigma ai, that is equal to 232,925 by 7232, that is equal to 32.2 millimeters. So the centroid of the given figure, that is xy, is equal to 71.1 millimeters, comma 32.2 millimeters. That is x bar is equal to 71.1 and y bar is equal to 32.2 millimeters. So 71 and 32. So the centroid of the given figure is acting at a distance of 71. That is, so this is somewhere here, and 32. So like this. So exactly approximately the centroid of the given figure is acting at the position of the cursor located on the figure approximately. So in this way we have to solve the problems by finding the x and y coordinates wherever it is required according to the formula. Next, coming to this summary part, for example, in some problems, so we have found only x coordinate, and in some cases we have found only y coordinate, and in some cases we have found both, that is x coordinate and y coordinate. That means if a given figure is symmetrical about x axis, then the centroid is lying on the x axis. So only we need to find out the height of the centroid, that is y coordinate we have to find out. And similarly, if a figure is symmetrical about the y axis, then we have to find out because the figure is symmetrical about the y axis, the centroid is lying on the y axis. So we have to find out the distance of the x, that is y coordinate, on the figure. So like that. So depending on the symmetry, we have to find out the x bar or y bar, and if the figure is not symmetrical about either x axis or y axis, then we have to find out the both x coordinate and y coordinate. Now a small quiz. X bar is equal to, the options are sigma x by sigma a, sigma a by sigma a, sigma axy by sigma ax, and sigma a xy by sigma ay. So we know that the x bar, that is the x coordinate, is equal to sigma ax by sigma a. That is the first option. That is the answer. And y bar is equal to, the options are the sigma ax by sigma a, sigma ay by sigma a, sigma axy by sigma ax. Option D is sigma ax by sigma ay. So we know that the y bar is also equal to the algebraic sum of the areas multiplied with the y term by the total area. So that is nothing but the sigma ay by sigma a. That is the option B is the correct answer. And some problems can be taken for the assignment. So we need to read ourselves and prepare about what is the definition of the center of gravity. So these are the problems and questions. First one is define center of gravity and centroid. Second thing is some problem given and we need to find out the centroid of the given dissection. And here also similar T means it is also having the two rectangles. That is the top one is called as the flange, and vertical supporting is called as the web. So we have to divide two rectangles, then accordingly we have to find out the centroid. And here also it is symmetrical about the y axis. So we need to find out only the y coordinate, because at the midpoint the y axis is passing. So on the midpoint only the x coordinate is acting. So only we have to find out the y coordinate. And this is another problem. Here what is happening is actually it is a bigger rectangle from which a smaller rectangle cut out. So this can be taken as the two rectangles. First one is the bigger rectangle without any cutout. Then we have to consider the smaller rectangle is cut out from the bigger rectangle. Then by subtracting the areas and substituting that formulas, we will get the centroid of the given figure. So this is about the centroids. Now with this we have completed the centroid portion. Now we are entering into the moment of inertia portion. Now for that, firstly we have to define some of the definitions. So what is already we have studied defined the moment of inertia, but we'll study about the concept of the MI, and for the MI also we got the two theorems. So one is the parallel axis theorem, and second is the perpendicular axis theorem. Next, how to calculate the procedure for the moment of inertia, and also the radius of gyration, that we will study in this class. Now the meaning and concept of the moment of inertia. Now already we have defined the moment of inertia. What is the moment of inertia? The second moment of area about an axis is called as the moment of inertia about that axis. The general equation I is equal to dA into x square, or I is equal to dA into y square, where x or y is the distance of that centroid from the given reference axis. So here also, if you take that figure, this is the blue color is the body, and in that a small area we are taking the dA, and for the dA, the x and y are the coordinates of the centroid. Now the product of y into dA, y and dA, that is y into dA, is called the first moment of inertia. That is called the first moment of element. So y into dA is called the first moment. And again about the first moment of elemental area about x-axis, because the y is the distance between that area and x-axis. So y into dA is called as the first moment of elemental area dA about the x-axis, while integrating that is nothing but the summation. To find out the summation, we can use the integration. So integrating the y into dA will give the first moment of area, the total area about the x-axis. So the integration of y dA is nothing but the first moment of area, first moment of entire area about the x-axis. Now, if it is multiplied by again the distance y, so it is called as the second moment of area. So if we take the integration, that is integration of the y square into dA, so that is called as the second moment of the total area about x-axis, and this is called as the moment of inertia about x-axis. So the moment of inertia of the given area about x-axis is equal to integration of y square into dA, and where y is called as the distance of the centroid of the total area about the x-axis. And similarly, if it is the about the, if we take the integration of y square into dA, it is called as the moment of inertia about the x-axis, because the y is the distance of that area about y-axis, about x-axis, the distance of that area from the x-axis. The y is nothing but the distance of the area from the x-axis. Similarly, if we found the second moment of that area about y-axis, so it is equal to integration of the x square into dA, that is nothing but the second moment of the total area about the y-axis, because the distance between the y-axis and dA is x, so integration of x square into dA is called as the second moment of elementary area, and the integration of the second moment of that elementary area is called as the total moment of area, and that is called as the moment of inertia of that area about the y-axis. So here the moment of inertia Iyy is equal to integration of dA into x square, and whereas the moment of inertia of the area about x-axis Ix is equal to integration of dA into y square. So here the moment of inertia about xx is denoted by letter capital I suffixed by xx. Similarly, the moment of inertia about y axis is denoted by capital I suffixed with yy. So Ix is equal to integration of dA into y square, and Iyy is equal to integration of dA into x square. This is only the moment of area. Here there is no masses. Only we are considering only the areas of the figures or the areas of the laminas. That's why it is called as the moment of area. And if we coming to the units, so area is in square millimeter, and the distance, the square of the distance means again in square millimeters. So it is becoming mm to the power of 4. That is the area moment of inertia about the x-axis and the y-axis. Now the moment of inertia is having the two theorems. So one is called as the parallel axis theorem, and second is called as the perpendicular axis theorem. Now first we will study about the parallel axis theorem. Now here, for example, some area A is shown in the figure having the centroid at the point C. Now we know the moment of this area about the x-axis, that is y-axis, but we wanted to transfer that moment of inertia about the another axis AB, which is parallel to the x-axis. So with this parallel axis theorem, we can able to transfer the moment of inertia to any other parallel axis when we know the moment of inertia of that area about its centroidal axis. Here the x-axis is nothing but the axis passing through the centroid, and here the x-axis is nothing but the what, it is a line parallel to the x-axis, that is the horizontal line. That's why it is called x-axis, and here this axis is called as the axis which is passing through the centroidal area. Centroidal of the an area is called as the central axis, and here AB is an axis which is parallel to the centroidal axis x. So if we know the moment of inertia of any area about its central axis, then we can able to find the moment of inertia of that area about the an axis which is parallel to the central axis. So with the help of this parallel axis theorem, we can find like that. So here parallel axis theorem definition also it is required. So this is the statement. It states that the moment of inertia of a given area or lamina about a line AB is equal to its moment of inertia about its own central axis, which is parallel to AB, plus area of the given lamina multiplied by with the square of the distance between the central axis of the lamina and the line AB. So here IAB is equal to, here the IAB is equal to IXX plus A into H square. Here IAB means the moment of inertia of the given area about the an axis a line AB which is parallel to the XX. So IAB is equal to I of XX, that is the moment of inertia of that area about the XX axis, plus area multiplied by the square of the distance between the two axes. So the parallel axis theorem is intended to find out the moment of inertia about any parallel axis or about any axis which is parallel to its central axis and having some distance between the two. So here, if we know the moment of inertia of the given area about xx, that is the central axis, then we also can find out the moment of inertia of the same area about an axis or a line which is parallel to the its central axis, and if we know the distance between the two axes, so now the moment of inertia about an axis AB which is parallel to its central axis XX is equal to the moment of inertia of that area about its central axis plus area multiplied by the square of the distance between the two axes. So the IAB is equal to IXX plus A into H square. Here IAB means the moment of inertia about the AB axis and IXX means the moment of inertia about the central axis XX, and H is the distance between the two axes. Next, coming to the perpendicular axis theorem. Here, if we know the moment of inertia about the two axes, that is the x and y, then we can able to find out the moment of inertia about the z axis, which is perpendicular to the both the axes. Now in this case, what is happening is we can able to find out the moment of inertia of an area about the z-axis if we know the moment of inertia of that area about the x-axis and y-y, that is x-axis and y-axis. Here the condition is the x, y and z must be mutually perpendicular to each other. Then if you know the moment of inertia about the x-axis and y-axis, then we can able to find out the moment of inertia that area about the z-axis. And here the moment of inertia of an axis, z-axis, which is perpendicular to the given area, is the sum of the moment of inertia about the two mutually perpendicular central axis, that is x axis and y axis, and moment of inertia about the z axis is also called as the polar moment of inertia, because the z axis is perpendicular to the x axis and y axis. That's why it is called as the moment of inertia about the z axis is also called as the polar moment of inertia, and the moment of inertia about the z axis is nothing but the summation of its moment of inertias about the x axis and y axis. And we clearly can say the statement can be clearly say like this: the moment of inertia about z axis is equal to the moment of inertia of that area about the x-axis and moment of inertia of that area about y-axis when x, y, z are mutually perpendicular to each other, and izz is equal to ixx plus iyy. So this is the equation of the perpendicular axis, and with the parallel axis we can able to find out the moment of inertia about any parallel axis. If we know the moment of inertia of that area about the central axis and the distance between the two axes, and here the this perpendicular axis theorem can be helpful to find out the moment of inertia about the z-axis. If you know the moment of inertia about the x-axis and y-axis, where x, y, z are mutually perpendicular to each other. Okay, and izz is equal to ixx plus iyy. Today we will stop here and we will continue the remaining in the next class. So, thank you all.